Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away the ashes from an empty counter seat, and I wished I wasn't homesick, I wish I was asleep. Well, I hold her like a blanket up against my chin, and I need her like I need another pack of chewing gum. Well, we used to be like that, but now we're like this all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.
We are.
And here we are. We're live. Sorry, guys. Oh, yeah, it's us. So the song ended before because Paul sent out the wrong message. And I had talked about mocha and all that waste.
Nice. It was a nice coffee message. Yeah, I feel
It's
bad.
okay. I don't really feel bad about it. It's just, we're so good at tech. It's really our thing, isn't it?
Definitely our thing. I got my Sam Antics cup today. What do you have? I got my nephew's
This is
cup.
my fruit cup because it's big. What's it about? There it is.
It's very beautiful,
Thank
Mike.
you.
It's
got a pretty flower on there, but the main thing is that it's the biggest one that I can grab on a day like this.
I have a bigger one here for you, but we won't talk about it today.
No, we won't talk about it. We might.
But I want to talk about because I did a drug grant a couple of weeks ago. And then, during a pandemic time, that's what you watch. You watch commercials about lawyers and drugs, and it's like Warren Zevon's back, man. Send lawyers, guns, and money. And so this one, I was watching, it's like, here's this old guy, when I say old, my age-ish, and he's looking out at his little granddaughter play. He goes, I want to see my granddaughter grow up. When doctors told me I had heart trouble, I wanted to know what I could do about it. And they told me I could take blah, blah, blah. And you see him eating cotton candy with her, and they're walking in the park, and they're playing games, and he's tickling her. And then it says side effects could lead to diarrhea, headaches, bleeding from the eyes, and cramping. And I thought, and then at the end, it shows him with the little girl on his lap, and he goes, if it means a little more time with this one, it's worth it to me. And I thought, she ain't going to be hanging out with you. She's going to you're a zombie. You're going to be coming out with blood coming from your eyes, shit coming from your ass. She's going to be running. Papa died. Papa died.
Yeah, I do think the blood coming from the eyes might be traumatic for the kid. I'm not sure, but there might be therapy involved.
That's something ain't right with Papa.
That's like, Papa. Even the kids will be like, Dad, Dad, I can't bring she's had nightmares since the last time I brought her over. I'm sorry, I can't bring her by.
And he's blinking him in the eyes, going, "Why? But I took the drug and everything, you know."
I'm going to be around for the extra 20 years. You can't see the kid though.
Bleeding from the eyes and dripping from the ass, but I'm gonna be here.
Yeah, you're right. That's no way to live.
Now, again, not as bad as the lame-o commercial about the girl with Crohn's disease. You know, just not to reiterate an old bit, but, you know,
yeah,
your friends are on stage. There's 1,000 people in front of them. They're just standing there looking at each other like, "Oh, man, she's shitting on herself. I wish she was out here. We'd know what to do if she was out here." Play your instruments, for fuck's sake. You know, play. Don't let the audience know something's wrong. They don't know what's going on. And then she gets out there and they're all smiling. And she thinks everything's cool.
She does.
Out there and they're all smiling. The girl doesn't even know that behind her back they've been going, "Oh man, the singer's shit on herself."
Not only that, they just said it in an interview.
It's such a relationship. She totally needs to fire the whole band. She should get somebody to videotape the gig so she can see, first of all, the ineptitude and then the lack of discretion. You know, just band's supposed to cover for you, man.
Well,
they might well be pointing at her ass and going, "Poopy girl."
Right. You know? And you could tell they're not signed yet, because if they had been signed, the record label would already be telling the singer that she was the most important person anyway, and the band would have been half fired.
They would be fired by now, yeah. Absolutely.
So she's just not signed. She's in a cover band or something.
She needs to get signed.
She needs to get signed, and her problems are over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other girl, you know, we talked about it too. She's shopping with her friends, and her friends are like, "Oh, bummer, man. She can't change clothes, so she's got a shit." And then she takes the pill, and they go have pizza, and all three of them are happy. And I'm like, "Girl, you don't need a pill. You need to change your diet."
And not only that, you know, that everybody's just like, "Dude, she brings
just can't have pizza whenever you want,"
and
especially without changing clothes. Girl.
Well, it just occurred to me, like, she's probably bringing like 3 suitcases on a weekend kind of a thing, and the guys are like, "I can't fit the drums. Why did she have to have 3 freaking suitcases? We can't fit the amps in here." So, you know, there's lots of little issues that go with that.
Yeah, it all started with the grandpa bleeding from the eyes. So.
Grandpa. Yeah, I think that would. You know, I think being old, you start to listen to those things. Like young people, it just just goes over their heads with the side effects. They mentioned side effects. It could be like. They're not even listening to it. But we're old, and we might need that medicine.
Then they tune in.
If it said something like you would not be able to have sex anymore or something like that, then the kids are like, "Whoa, wait, what? Did I hear something?"
Although the young people really dug the Adderall for a while, you know, because it's supposed to make you smart.
It was a big thing with college
kids. I would say,
that
in my experience, overdoing drugs doesn't necessarily make you smart.
No, I thought Adderall was about staying awake. Like, it was like...
By the way, I want to point out that I'm wearing my Joliet Brew Club shirt that has my personal name on it. And you might ask why a person living in a city of breweries, New Orleans, has a Joliet Brew Club shirt on. And they have their own bar as well. Because as far as I know, and I could be wrong, no bar in New Orleans has of yet had a Louisiana Lowdown and Blueberry flavored beer. Nor have they had another cup of coffee stout.
Really? So these guys have this?
Oh, yes.
By the way, I'm actually reading your shirt, and it says the Guild. So it's the Joliet Brewers Guild?
Oh, yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Guilds are even cooler, though. You know, that's why.
So much in clubs, because clubs, you know, it sounds like you'd hit somebody with.
Yeah, it sounds like a kid thing, right? You know, boys club, girls club, you know, a guild.
Yeah, guild sounds like suits and evening.
Yeah, and something worthy of Louisiana Lowdown and Blue beer or whatever. So.
Yeah. Although, you know, one time Cubbermouth was playing in Dallas, and it was like when we were first getting popular in Dallas, which meant like we were selling out a, 800-person nightclub or whatever the hell. But it was sold out, and some kids that were used to coming to see us, maybe they'd driven from far, whatever, but they were drunk and they were walking away, having been turned away from the club as I'm getting on the tour bus. And one of them yells out, "Paul Sanchez, Louisiana Lowdown and blew my ass, man."
Yes.
I was like, DJ made me laugh so hard. come back over here. I will get you in for free.
So he wasn't feeling Louisiana Lowdown Blue that day, I guess, huh?
No, I suppose not. I guess once he got turned away, he was, in fact, jet black and jealous.
So I want to talk about something here before we get Eddie, because I actually have an opinion. And once we get Eddie on, we won't, neither one of us will be able to speak anymore. So just so he knows, you'll get your chance to talk about this, Eddie. So you don't have to call in.
Explain to him that your voice gets cut off when the other guy won't stop talking.
I told him that before. He gets excited. It's not his fault.
He's an excitable boy.
It is what it is. But in the meantime,
Barnes Yvonne Day here on our show. We had Lawyers, Guns, and Money, and now we're going to have an excitable
boy. Yes, he's probably watching right now. He's ready to curse me out in the comments. Excitable. But anyway, we're talking about Whiplash, right? Real quick, just about the relationship in Whiplash. You and I were just getting ready to talk about this a minute ago. I don't know who's seen Whiplash, but spoilers for Whiplash if you haven't seen it yet. Although, personally, if you're gonna watch, if you weren't gonna watch this movie, until we start talking about it, you weren't gonna watch this movie. It's it's an indie movie.
I mean, it's been 4 years. If they haven't seen Whiplash in the last 4 years, they might think you're talking about a car accident.
Exactly. So they don't know. Although there is a car accident in the movie.
The drum instructor, and the kid who desperately wants to be a great drummer. Yes. And he plays till his hands bleed, and this guy berates him and does he hit him?
Yeah,
he hits him,
right? Him the first day because he's asking about time, and so he's asking if he's rushing or dragging. So he has him counting time, and so he's counting time and he hits him on the one. He keeps hitting him on the one, and So
I would have told I'd have to stop that drum lesson and go, motherfucker, I will take you.
Right. So the kid,
you hit me one more time, I will take you out like Tupac. You will go down. Like just Sonny Liston.
So I've seen a few people talk about this movie, and like the millennial guys, these guys that are 20-some or whatever who do these movie reviews online, I enjoy their perspective on movies often. It's kind of it's interesting to me.
So what do they say? They say they let the guy.
No, not necessarily from that angle, but just at the end of the story, their sort of take on the whole thing is they can't understand the teacher's point of view on it, and at the end of it, they feel like, somehow, when the teacher's smiling and all that stuff like that, that somehow there's some evil at work or something like that, that, and in the end, was it worth it? That's what the artist is saying, at the end, was it worth it? You get your one fleeting moment or whatever like that. But I don't.
So here's the thing, Mikey. I was thinking about this week because you and I, we keep talking about how things are going to change for performers post-pandemic. And one of the things, pandemic, pre-worldwide communication, was you sort of needed the approval of someone, be it your teacher or the network that you were appealing to for a show or for an appearance on somebody's show, or from, the promoter to be on the big festival. Well, you needed somebody's approval to be seen. And there were so little chances to be seen that everybody fought for their spot and crushed their own version of expression in order to fit the mold of expression that said, this is greatness, this is the path to greatness. If you want to be considered one of the greats, you have to go this way. And while that produced some greats that I admire and respect, what's interesting to me is that, as Andy Warhol once said, in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Well, now, you don't need anybody's permission to just do the art the way you see it and hear it and feel it and release it into the world. Now, you might not make $1 million on it. You might, who knows? It's a crazy world. But the important thing is supposed to be the doing.
Yeah, but that movie's not about art. That movie's more treating music like a sport. It's more about technique.
I don't understand that kind of music. It's so competitive. It's so about perfectionism. But I don't want to diss it because somebody who's incredibly wonderful at perfectionism, like a Matt Perrine, for instance, who's schooled and can sight read and can hear precision. Like I've worked with Matt, and the amazing thing about Matt is that he can hear it.
He can hear those little things out of place, right? And
right,
like Fletcher in the movie. Fletcher.
We did Nine Lives. Matt had written all the arrangements, so they were perfect in his mind. He already heard them perfect because he'd arranged them. So when we'd be playing them, if anybody, and it wasn't me always, I mean, sometimes it was, but if anybody played a note that wasn't quite there, he would just kind of flinch and then he'd smile, which meant we were going to be stopping. And he wanted to hear what he needed to hear, which was the exact note. Not close, not a bluesy up to it, but that note, that precision. And I truly admire that. The fact that he can write it, the fact that he already hears it in his head, I think the guy's a genius. I still wouldn't let Matt hit me.
Right. No, but, I think the whole idea to me about what this story means is it's a different way of learning. Like, it's so because we fell into this whole thing. I mean, I had kids coming up during this time, and there was this big push to everybody's good. I remember when Allie was in 8th grade, she had played for a private school for a year. It was a long story, but the coach that she was working with on her travel team went to this school and asked her to come there. So she spent her 8th grade year at this private school just for 1 year to help them get to a championship. And anyway, the idea, we had to play these teams where they actually asked our girls to not play at their best and give these girls an opportunity because it was unfair, because they were so good. Same age group, same age, everything. But it was unfair if our girls came out and beat a team 100, which would happen, 150 to like 5. It would happen with some of these private schools because they're just not at that level. Our girls are playing at a national competitive level, and some of these kids are just doing it for fun. It's like, well, then don't schedule a game with us. You shouldn't have to tell people to pull back. I've never believed in that. I mean, you getting your ass whipped like that should be the kind of thing that you remember, and you decide, well, either I'm going to be good at this or I'm going to not do it, or if I'm going to do it, it's just for fun. What?
Or I'm switching to theater.
Right, or I'm switching to something else completely. But the idea, I like where Fletcher was coming from, and it's kind of where I felt like our generation was more in that line of like, yeah, I mean, what he was looking for, he was beating the shit out of everybody to find out who had the fucking balls to stand up to him and to stand up for themselves. Like, it opens up with him with those 3 trombone players or 4 trombone players, asking him which one's out of tune, and he goes up to one guy and starts telling him he's out of tune, and is he out of tune? He's like, are you out of tune? And this, that, and the other. Yeah, out of tune. And the guy didn't know if he was out of tune, so he kicked him out of the thing. A minute later, the teacher goes, well, he wasn't the one that was out of tune. It was you, Erickson. But he didn't know he wasn't out of tune, and that's just as bad. So he sent him on his way. I understand that mindset completely. I mean, to me, I want to build people that are, if they're going to be good at something, they're going to be fucking good at it without coddling them.
Yeah, played rock and roll to get away from people like that.
I understand. I understand people like that because I've always wanted to be good at things that I was doing. So I get the mindset.
I wanted to be good at it, but I didn't want to be good in somebody else. I didn't want to be somebody else's idea of good. I wanted to be my idea of good.
I understand. I think we all still want to be our idea of good, but
I wanted to be a songwriter, and I had an inner aesthetic that I was reaching for.
But remember, this is a kid. You're trying to teach him how to. He went, yes. Did he go too far? Yes, he went too far a few times.
Okay, me, I'm coming from a place where I got beat every day. So
you got it as a younger person. So you already had it in your life.
By the time I got to school, I could take a punch from a teacher.
Right.
But my problem was I would give it back.
Right. But I mean, that was good because you were exactly the kind of teacher, a student he was looking for.
Oh, no. He would have a severe.
Remember he got tackled at one point and almost got his ass kicked?
A symbol to the head repeatedly is what we're talking.
Yeah. Hey, Andre's calling me right now. I think that's funny. Andre Bowen. I told you I saw him last night.
One of the sweetest guys we know, as I unveil my early Irish Channel Irish side, which, by the way, through years of therapy and meditation, I very rarely visit.
What's interesting is he played classical piano. Maybe I should have taken the call and I could have asked him, okay, you played classical piano. What was your teacher like? Did your teacher smack you on the hands with a ruler?
He taught himself.
What's that?
Andre self.
Oh, really? He didn't have he was in recitals. Don't you have to go through the system to be in the recitals? And
he was self-taught and learned by ear.
Okay.
And played it by memory. So he doesn't sit there with sheet music in front of him like most people do. Even the best classical pianists in the world have sheet music in front of them. Andre plays from memory. and he taught himself to do it. And he's so good that he gets asked to do recitals.
Right, I see.
He's an amazing musician.
Oh yeah, of course. And he was playing last night with that string quartet over at that St. Augustus Church. Have you been there?
And he's really as nice a human being as he is a musician. You know, he's an amazing person, you know, an amazing player. Really, just I can't say enough about him. Saw him first with Beaten Path when he was 19.
Yeah, I know. I feel proud of the fact that we actually got him to play in his first bars. I'm pretty sure that he played his first bar gigs with us.
Oh, he had to be. He was a baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Know?
He was.
That guitar player is really good. And somebody said, yeah, he's Spencer's son. And I went, oh, yeah, of course.
And then he switched to drums for us for a while before.
Yeah, and he just as well.
And he played drums. It was great. I mean, you know, I remember we played a handful of gigs with him, but Carrollton Station, Eric told him, hey, man, look, I can't have you in here drinking, okay? I mean, I'm going to let you come in and play with the guys. Can't have you drinking. Fucking first set, Andre's pitching him back and everything like that. So we didn't have a drummer for the rest of the night. Eric's like, I told you, I can't, man. I can't do this. So Andre had to go outside. You know, so we played the rest of the gig without a drummer. But
that's hilarious.
Yes, he was like, I'm so sorry, guys. You know, he was a little trashed at that point. He had fun that night. I think he was probably telling me to tell me he's got a gig tonight at this St. Augustus Church, I was saying. We're going to film it tonight. But it was a nice little, it's over in Irish Channel, probably right where you, it's Constance.
St. Alphonsus.
Constance and St. Andrew.
That's St. Alphonsus.
St. Alphonsus, sorry, that's the one. Okay, yes. Beautiful church. Have you been? I assume you've been in it.
I was an altar boy in that church.
I figured. So it's gorgeous, right? And they're playing gigs. They played last night in there with the string quartet.
Yeah, I actually played several gigs for them. And then the person that was running it got changed. And the person must have heard of my reputation at St. Alphonsus and Redemptors, and they haven't called me back.
Well, to be fair, COVID's been going on, so.
Before COVID, and I'm not going to say that I wasn't trouble in high school. I didn't cause disturbances in St. Alphonsus when I was young.
I can picture you like calling her the Penguin and stuff like that, you know, doing the whole Blues Brothers thing.
I like to sing Jesus Christ Superstar songs when we were singing the church songs. Some took offense to that.
You know, I guess they would.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happened. There's so much more rocking than Lamb of God. You take and it's in the same key, and it's got the right groove underneath. So what I felt like I was doing was adding some syncopation underneath the Lamb of God. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. I just thought I was adding to the song.
Were you trying to keep it on the down low, or you just like loud and proud?
Oh, at first I was on the down low, and then my friend Howard Stevens was sitting next to me, elbowing me, going, yeah. So I got a little loud, and then the teacher hit me in the back of the head with a ruler.
See, you came from a time when teachers did beat you up, and you had the audacity to sit there and go, I would never get beaten up. You took it from the nuns.
No, I'm telling you, that's why I don't like it. It happened all the time. It happened at home. It happened at school. Everybody was kicking my ass. I was a punching bag.
So I got
plugged on my way to church when I was 6 years old by 5 other 6-year-olds. 4 of them grabbed my arms, and one of them searched
your forearms.
And the dime in my shoe that I kept to light a candle for my father to say a prayer for him. So they took my dime, my candle dime. So
that's fucked up.
Like at 6, I was getting mugged and getting slapped around before I left home. When I left home, when I got to school. There was nothing but let's just hit Paul. It sounds like the thing to do. Everybody else is doing it.
Hey, it's, Peter Parker here. Let's knock him around. Paul Sanchez guy.
Later in life, I learned how to make people stop doing that, and they did. And then I learned to stop being angry about the fact that it had happened, and I am.
You ever thought about the fact that you may not have become a musician and a songwriter without that experience?
I don't know too many people that get into songwriting because they're happy.
You got to express yourself. There's something going on inside. You have to express yourself. All good. There are people who write from a happy place. I tend to prefer writers who write from a place of more, everyday life, which is everyday life is mostly down here with your highs that happen, and then you're mostly down here, and then you got your highs, and then you're sitting down here, and that's the way life kind of works. You got your lows that happen too. You just hope you get out of your lows quicker. But most of the time, you're running right about 30, 35. You know, if it's up to 100, every once in a while you get up to that 100. There's a few of those in your life, just a few spikes, you know.
A writer once said that life is divided into the horrible and the miserable. So you should be grateful when you're just miserable.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. That's the point, right? You know, living a normal, everyday, miserable life. At least it's not horrible. It could be worse.
I try to be grateful every day for the simple things, and the pandemic's been helpful with that. It's a nice day, for instance. It's going to get up to 80 degrees today, and a guy that likes warm weather, that's good news.
And, you know, I'm not digging the 80 degrees. Plus, does anybody in New Orleans know a good mechanic?
Flash, and we diverge on the 80 degrees.
Anybody know a good mechanic? I'm talking to you people out there.
Although now that we work, next time we do a record together, I will know how to get your attention. When I want something done, I'll just slap you in the face a few times.
See? Just tell me to start counting.
Chair at you. I'll throw a chair at you. You know, great. It's going to be such a fun time. We should film it.
Right. My main point being that, you know, millennials just don't understand why that behavior. Because at the end, he gives a whole speech about why he's doing that. Right. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen the movie.
It's been a while.
So I mean, at the end of it, he sort of he gets him fired ultimately. And then he sees him in the bar that night, and he pretends like he doesn't know anything about it, and he's just talking about, you know, what he was trying to do, why he was acting that way, how he talks about experiences of these other greats, including Charlie Parker, and how, you know, these experiences are what made them get serious, because at one point they were young and playful and not taking it as seriously as they should have. Even though they had opportunities, they didn't take the most of them until they were embarrassed to a point where they didn't want it to happen again. So they took it seriously. And I do think that a lot of artists and athletes and things like that, great ones, are built that way. I can tell you this about my daughter. My daughter did not like to be told that or criticized. And because of that, she worked really hard at making sure she wouldn't get criticized. And it made her a great ball player. It makes her a great student. It makes her really, really good at things that I was really never good at. She takes it very seriously because she never wants to be criticized. It's just an interesting personality quirk that creates people that are a little bit, you know, maybe more driven than other people, because everybody's different. And look, you don't have to be a driven person, but the driven people are the people that we look to and go, wow, most of the time. Usually it's people that are driven that we look at in life, and they accomplish things, and some of them get lucky, but a lot of them worked for a long time to get where they got. So, I don't know.
I'm not disagreeing. I still wouldn't let anybody hit me.
No, I understand. He definitely, it was, you know, for dramatic effect. I'm sure the movie took liberties, right?
I bet there are teachers, or at least were teachers like that for sure, you know?
Absolutely. They always talk about those and those kind of ones when you hear those stories. There's always some teacher that, but he makes an impression. You know, the teacher I had from high school that made the biggest impression on me was an ass, but he was fair. But he was an ass, too, you know? And that was one thing even though he was constantly trying to drive the kid got to play. The kid got to, and in fact, I think he set up his first opportunity to play by grabbing the drummer's book. I think it was Fletcher, obviously, that took the book. And the kid was ready for his opportunity, and Fletcher had set it up a situation where the kid could actually step into that spot. You know,
right.
And at the end, when the kid started taking over and fighting back and became really good, you could see Fletcher was very proud of that moment, and suddenly he was like, yeah, okay, the kid gets it. Here's excellence. We're watching it, you know? So I thought that he came from an honest place with it too. And I think that was kind of where the millennials miss it. They don't think that anyone can honestly, that, you know, that it's more just the psychological abuse. And I think that's part of their.
Yeah, I mostly what I'm taking away from this is you continue to compare me to the millennials.
And I'm talking about the millennials.
No, I'm digging it. I want to identify with the millennials.
There you go.
I know that I'm old to hang out with them, so I won't try and foist myself upon them. I won't try and hope they like my music, but their ethos is my ethos.
Well, you can tell my daughters don't listen to the show, or I wouldn't be so, critical of.
Yeah, I don't even try. Like at first, I was making an announcement on Instagram, and then I realized Instagram's for young people. Young people aren't going to want to tune into two old people.
Why would
Not
they?
even if one of them goes, I could be one of you. That's even going to creep them out more.
I know.
So try. When I see millennials, when I hear their conversations, I just smile secretly to myself, and I know that they are brethren. And I love their lack of ownership. I love their lack of I love their nomad-like existence. So I'm down with the millennials, and your comparison of me to them, it gladdens my heart, and it makes me even more happy that millennials aren't watching because they'd be embarrassed. They'd think, oh, they're comparing them to us.
Yeah, no, they'd be like, he doesn't get it, man. He just doesn't understand. By the way, Sean Gold, thank you so much.
And I'd like to give,
Sean Gold told me where I could go to. He recommended Park Place Tire and Auto on Shop Tools. Thank you, Tom. I'm actually Sean. Thank you, Sean, very much, because I need. I've got several things wrong with my car, and I'm hoping to have someone who don't rip me off fix it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I've got some things wrong. They're the kind of problems that, brakes. I got an AC issue. I got a radiator leak issue. The kind of things where people can jack up the price because they, it's not the kind of thing where it could really be an easy thing, but they're going to be like, oh no, brakes. They're coming in with the brakes. Oh yeah, it's $1,000. So just
kind of good auto mechanic.
Yeah, one you can trust. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I don't recall talking about that during the show. Was that a pre-show text you sent out?
No, I just asked him while you were talking about something else. I said, anybody got to know? It was one of our listeners.
You ignore me so often now that I've got.
Well, you were on a rant. I think I was finishing up, and I just kind of.
It's just incredible. It really is. It's yet one more wife in my life.
Well, I think you had made your point. So Guido. Is this really Guido? All right, so Guido says, compared to you old goats, I must be a Ute. Like, are we talking like Herman Munster Ute? Like, what was it? My cousin Vinny Ute? The Utes?
Ute. Yeah, well, we said Ute in our Ute.
Yeah, we did say Ute. By the way, do you know they use that movie and for lawyers? Because apparently the procedures in it are real. I read this in some article somewhere.
Yeah, I have no doubt that modern day law students watch My Cousin Vinny.
It's actually, look, they have like movies about cases or whatever, and lawyers rank them, and My Cousin Vinny's in the top 5 because it's like real procedures.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Plus, it's a great movie, but
it speaks well of our modern legal system.
Why? Because it's a comedy.
Because they're studying film.
Well, yeah. See, millennials again, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, millennials. You guys.
Why do you pick on millennials?
I know, I'm going to stop. Because I'm kidding.
Because you resent your children not visiting you.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't even realize it. But my daughter just left. She was here all weekend. She would be like, Dad,
you resent her leaving. And now here you are, banging on the millennials, man. Millennials this and millennials. And they're my peeps.
Yeah, I know. That's because you identify.
Except for the wrinkles, I am one of them.
That's right. Well, by the way, can you name a band that, is just maybe 5 years old? How about that? Can you name a band that's 5 years old that you really like that's worth our listeners listening to?
Can I name a band? It does have to be a band.
As well, or maybe artists are easier, but I was thinking,
because Lady Gaga's amazing.
She's more than 5 years old. Sorry, she's actually too old.
Who's the kid that just sang on the Grammys with the nice hair? He was good. I didn't expect to like him because he was a young kid with a leather jacket and nice hair. But he had a good voice.
You don't know his name, but yeah, that's the kind of guy I'm talking about.
And
the millennials know his name.
The Billie Eilish kid, she's got some good songs. She and her brother.
My daughter, actually, who does like good music, was she just got herself a haircut, a Joan Jett haircut, she calls it. And so apparently Miley Cyrus got one too, and she had went to go see my mom during Easter, and she came back and she was talking about how they were making fun of Miley's haircut, and Allie's like, "It's the same haircut I just got." I'm like, "Don't you guys realize?"
Which Joan Jett? The '80s Joan Jett with the black dyed hair, or the crew cut Joan Jett of the '90s?
The '80s, the sort of the shag cut that she had.
The shag.
It's coming back.
It was a black dyed shag. The shag. There was nothing wrong with the shag. It was easy to keep up.
That was the thing. And it's coming back. Allie's had long hair her whole life because of basketball, and she told me, she goes, "I decided to get the haircut I wanted. Basketball be damned." So because she had to have it long.
I tried having a shag, but my hair was so frizzy. It just looked like a perm.
You look good with that haircut. You've had it for what, 50 years now? Maybe 40.
Let me see. I saw Joe Ely play in 1983 and went home and combed my hair back the next day.
And
So
it's like you're one of the lucky ones because your hairline's not receding. You're still able to.
you're very kind, man.
Mine isn't either, so we're both lucky in that respect. But
Well, you can't always count on that
no,
light.
you can't. No, you can't. And look, for the guys who don't get that thing, I get it. So what can you do? I've gotten fat, so what am I gonna do?
In my astral projection, I still have a head full of colics, really.
Yeah. And your astral projection, so nobody would recognize you. I think Eddie just called in.
No. I'm much handsomer in that projection as well.
Let's see.
And here we are. It's time
10
for
minutes
10
with
minutes of
Edward.
Edward.
So let me see what's going on with you now, Paulie, because now your picture is all freaked out again. Go ahead and talk, Mr. Edward. How are you doing, boss?
Hey, everybody. 20 minutes of Eddie. What do you need 30 minutes
That's
of Eddie
the
for?
Eddie we remember. See? That's our guy.
Hey, everybody. First of all, I want to give a shout out to my mom, who really came through this Easter. I now have a freezer full of heavenly hash eggs. And
It's my least favorite candy bar.
you got to stick them in the freezer.
Let's try it.
She said, do you want the pecan marshmallows? I said, I can't with my diverticulitis.
Yeah, that would hurt.
That's how you know you're too old for Easter.
Well, that's one way.
So let me see, Eddie. Paul, your video stopped for some reason.
Should I hang up and dial back
Yeah,
in?
he
Eddie
might
messed
have.
me up again.
Why don't you try to call back in? So now it's just me and you, Eddie. You were going to say something about Whiplash, weren't you? Allie. She does. She's cute as heck, the little sucker. Now, all right. And we're back.
All right.
And we're back. So that
And
was
we're
good.
back.
Hey, so yeah, I met Joan Jett twice when I was with Paul with Cowboy Mouth, and she is so amazing, but she's so small. She is
Really?
shorter
she
than
doesn't
you
look
think.
that small.
But even with the tough persona that she projects, the first impulse I had was that I had to protect her. Like that's how small
I don't think she needs protection either.
You know, I was like,
she's
man.
right.
You wouldn't think, but then when you get eye to eye with her, she looks like somebody that she was very vulnerable, and it made me instinctively want to protect
How
her.
chivalrous of
You know what I mean? But she was amazing. Yeah, well, she's so amazing. You can't argue with how badass she was.
I'm going to say that I was at the show, and when she walked by me, she scared me, and I got out of her way. And then I went out and enjoyed.
Why am I not surprised?
And then I went out and enjoyed the show. She freaking rocked. She rocked as hard as
She
anybody
wrote some
ever
great
saw.
tunes. I mean, her
man,
and
she's great. She did with the Runaways and just and mercifully, she did not write "I Love Rock and Roll." That was a song her producer made her do.
The song is good.
Wisely, I mean, she could, probably that's her retirement.
Yeah, so she doesn't mind.
I don't hold it against her. I love her. I think she's great.
Well, thank you.
I think Allie's great too.
She's never going to see this, so
yeah. How are
you? Say
you
whatever you want about her.
No.
Hey, I have a question for each of you guys, and for anyone in the chat who's listening. Who is the person when you were growing up? I was just thinking about this recently. Like when you were younger, that you would listen to albums with. Like the person you could get together with specifically just to listen to this album, and just go and just share that experience, I
mean, for me, it was my brother Johnny.
It had to be. I had a feeling it was a family member for you, Paul.
Yeah, it was my brother Johnny. And he had better taste than me because I was always rooted in tradition. So it was Johnny who would bring home, Elvis Costello.
Yeah.
I'd be like, come on, listen to the new thing. And he'd be like, well, listen to this first, And it was Johnny who got me to listen to Jim Carroll. You
Oh
know?
wow.
Yeah,
Good
and
for you, Johnny.
yeah, to this day, I think that that's one of the greatest records ever made. I still close shows with people who died. So he got me to listen to the specials. He hipped up my musical taste. You know, he was younger than
Punch Drunk used to end shows with people who died.
me.
It's a great ending. You could just ramp to the end, and then bam, it ends.
Yep.
You
I
know,
do like that
it's a
song.
good ender.
I was on the phone with Apple the other day, and they have great music when you're on hold. I don't know if you guys ever noticed that, but I was stuck on the phone with them.
So, Mike, who was your
Talking
record
to me?
listening partner when you were young?
My friend Dan Freeman and
Yeah.
I were kind of into Pink Floyd at the same time, but I had different friends for different things. You know, I had my Beatle buddies and my songwriting buddies, and everybody was kind of. Let's see, we got some comments. All of a sudden, the comments lit up.
People love Eddie.
So
Look at this hair. Get a good
and
look.
does that mean you're
I
gonna
get
get a
my
haircut
second
too?
shot
Is it
Friday.
like one?
I got to wait 2 weeks, and then I'm ready to go back to Mr. Reno and look like myself again.
I don't know.
Last time I looked like this, I was in 7th grade and preparing to go to war with the Benedictine nuns at St. Peter's Elementary School.
With the fight rages.
This is my war hair.
So, Allison, yes,
Rages on,
Allison, get in touch with me about maybe reach out to Paul or something like that. I'm very interested in Pete and Pat. Real quick, you want to hear a funny story? Because I didn't believe this. Allison Dewar says her girl child, who she don't know her, that she's actually heard of any of this ever, is always like, "Where's Eddie? Is Eddie on? Is it an Eddie day?" That's I don't think she's heard it. That's her point. She just wants to know what's going on with Eddie. So,
oh man, what is it? I have a rare day alone, and I have to spend it fixing the downspout gutters in my house.
I was impressed by how much you knew about rivet guns and.
I have a rivet gun and rivets. But I think I broke my concrete drill bit when I was building the deck.
Concrete. I was amazed when you told me you had a concrete drill bit. You're like Tommy Ecker left you a
Paul,
dude.
I think
No, he did not. Being on the road turned me into
Paul,
one.
I think you're.
Well, it was completely out of necessity. I mean, I knew how to plumb, but it really never came up very much,
So is a concrete drill made out of concrete?
A concrete drill bit is made out of a harder material, like a diamond, like
So
a
it's
cubic
not made out of
zirconian kind of
concrete. That is
material. And
False advertising.
the bit is kind of made to bring the concrete dust out as it goes in, and then I screw in.
That he was baiting you into tech talk.
Ah,
I did think.
Mikey.
Because Mikey has always been jealous of your personality and your ability to make people laugh. He knows that Allison, whose real name is Shmoo, by the way, now he knows that Shmoo's daughter is a fan. You're in trouble. Talk tech all the time. Now.
I don't understand. Mikey cracks me up every time he opens his mouth.
What are you gonna do? Hey, it's funny.
Salute,
I'm
brother.
looking at your names that are on Skype, but your names don't show up over here. That's sad.
Well, that's fun. That's weird. Hey, Eddie. So we were talking about Whiplash, and on my personal stance, no, I would not let it matter how good that could make me play.
Dude, they would still 8-year-old Eddie at Loyola. They would still be picking pieces of Zildjian out of that dude's skull.
Really?
Yes, I would. Dude, I quit school after a semester and a half, and I literally on the bandstand got into fights with band members. Like he'd grab my cymbal stand and start whacking. I was like, and there's nothing that they could teach me in this school that I can't learn on the bandstand, and I'm wasting my youth in school. There was but that was me. But I saw that movie and I was like, oh God. Watching that movie and think you know anything about music school is like watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and thinking what it's like to be a minor.
Yeah.
Yeah, But there were some details that were just like ridiculous, you know. I mean, the teacher 3/4, and then he stops the guy. Not my tempo. Sorry, dude. You have to give me more than 2 beats to establish a fucking
Maybe
tempo.
not in certain
You know?
places, man. You know.
Dude, the first time the kid sits in the drum throne to run the band, you can give him 3/4 notes before you start throwing shit at him. You know what I'm saying? 2, 3, 4. Now I know what the tempo is.
He did give him that, though. They went around the first time.
That dude was on a power trip, you know, and I have to tell you, it was very disappointing because the teacher fell for the same trap, and the kid fell in the same trap that the guy who wrote the tune Whiplash fell into when he wrote it in the 50s. It's just made to be impossible, and it's completely unlistenable. It's music by people who can't dance for people who can't dance. Bebop is the jazz equivalent of jam bands. It's a safe space for people to go to pretend they're cool, even though they have no sense of rhythm. It's a place where musicians who have no sense of rhythm can gather together and make some noise and feel like they're cool.
This is perfect because Mike and I have spent the last 2 months avoiding anything slightly controversial. And were there a jazz bebop fan listening, we would be inundated with complaints right now.
And then it goes through all that torture. And here's the thing. It's like all those jazz musicians in the 40s and 50s who thought because Charlie Parker was a heroin addict that they had to be heroin addicts. Like that the talent came out of being a heroin addict. You know, it's the complete wrong message. This teacher thought that the way to make players better was to employ this harmful and destructive teaching method. And in the end, who knows how many musicians
that was the point. That's like when he asked him that, he goes, "What if you discourage the next Charlie Parker?" He goes, "I won't discourage the next Charlie Parker." That was the whole fucking point. Plus, I'm listening to that music, being amazed at the precision, and I love the bebop. I thought it was killer. So yes, it's okay. It's not your music.
The kid, all that Sturm und Drang, and at the end they play what?
Well, the drum solo went on a little too long, but even that worked. I was.
But you can't even tap your foot.
But you know, I have to say,
tap your foot. That's not music. That's just noise.
It goes back to what Mikey and I were talking about earlier. When we were younger, generations ago, there was one figure who said, "This is how it's done." And so all these jazz guys who thought they had to take heroin to be as good as Miles. No, that's not what made Miles good.
No, Miles took heroin to be as cool as.
But then the next generation, because of Wynton Marsalis rejecting that notion like you do, thought you had polite and reserved, and this whole presentation that is wonderful for Wynton. It isn't Branford. And it isn't a whole generation of players who were taught that that was the path to greatness. And that's the wonderful thing about today's new paradigm shift is the path to greatness is inside you. And there are teachers along the way who can point the way to where greatness lies, but it's not to be anyone other than yourself. And
let me just put this out there. An amazing drummer and teacher who we all know personally, John Vodakovich. How many drummers has he taught and inspired and encouraged? And could you ever imagine Johnny treating a student like that?
I was going to say, I think it's fair to say that Johnny Vodakovich is a true rarity as both a drummer and an instructor.
Yes.
Because drumming was about, long before he was an instructor, his drumming was a personal expression that came from within him and worked within the framework of the song he was given.
Yes.
It wasn't the beat that somebody was expecting. It was the beat that he knew worked.
Yes.
That's how Johnny always played. And eventually when he taught, that's what he taught too, is that the music's here. I can make out of anything. So can you.
Yeah.
But you got to hear it first, and you got to play what you hear.
And that's the thing for me. He blew my mind. When you're playing music, time isn't linear like a pogo stick. Time starts at the beginning of the phrase, and it ends at the end of the phrase. That's time in music, you know. And so, however the phrase goes, That's time. It's not rigid. It's whatever you make it. Sometimes it speeds up. Sometimes it slows down. Mike, you know what I'm talking about because that's how we approach it in Beaten Path. We let songs naturally speed up or naturally slow down depending on how we feel.
I personally, better or worse, there's a wonderful thing about educated players that I love, admire, and often have worked with. But there's a wonderful thing about the freedom of having been a primitive. For instance, when I was doing my album "Everything That Ends Begins Again," that was produced by Jay Weigel, Jay was scoring it for the New Orleans string, and he called me and he said, "I just wanted to check this before I write the score. Do you understand that there's places where you're flipping time signatures?" I said, "I don't even know what that means."
You don't need to.
And he goes, "Just come in and give a listen." He goes, and he played me the song. Is this what you wanted to do? And I said, "Yeah." And he sat back in his chair and he smiled. He went, you flip time signatures within the space of like 3 bars. He said, "You really don't know that you did that?" I said, "No, that's just the way I heard it. Is that going to work?" And he goes, "Well, of course it works. It's music. I'm the guy that makes it work. That's how it came to you."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it has to be like that. Mikey, back me up here. I mean, isn't that what you tried to accomplish in Beaten Path?
Part of that is because we're primitives, and because that's the best thing that works for us. We couldn't go in and attack it the other way because we're just not. It's
what works for us. You said it right there.
And for us, music is an expression so it's a different type of expression. But for a different personality type of someone who craves that perfection, who craves that athletic. I agree. And
cool.
Not only that, I see the beauty in it just like you do. I see the beauty in being able to pull that off. What they're pulling off in some of that bebop is so amazing to me. If you really listen, especially in a movie like that where they really kind of bring the drums forward, because generally in that thing, those mixes, the drums are back in the mix a little bit, but on this movie, they really pronounced it. And you got to hear some of what they're doing and the way that they're using time, and holy ghost, man, it's pretty impressive.
Very few people who can play it in an enjoyable way to me. It sounds clickety clack. It's like the Grateful Dead and Fish. I can't listen to it.
I like the modern jazz.
Turns my knob off.
I mean, well, he's doing the same basic thing. Everything is a.
I know, but Gene Krupa plays like Gene Krupa.
That's very true.
His playing is a natural expression of himself. Like, could you imagine Keith Moon playing drums any other way?
That goes right back to the argument about this movie that I think Eddie and I are in line with, and Mike isn't, is that this guy's trying to make him play away instead of listening to the greatness inside the kid and making it great.
I don't think that's where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Like, for him, he's building different musicians than what you guys are talking about. Obviously, there's a place for those musicians, and
really
place for them. Those musicians.
Yeah, on the corner selling pencils.
No. Those musicians will find work in pit orchestras on Broadway and in symphonies, and in precision and being a technician is what gets you the gig.
Guys,
you're looking for something.
Y'all are. I love you both, but I mean, Hamilton is pretty much like the shot across the bow. It's like the first Sex Pistols record. There's going to be more and more hip hop on Broadway, and fewer and fewer.
You're wrong about that because everything's sort of. It's a novelty. It won't take over. Not Broadway. It just I think for them it's like, oh look, we get some.
Computers have
some
killed,
urban flavor in our stuff.
Well, we have different opinions.
I have a feeling it's not going to go full on rap. I mean, not there. I mean, that's insane.
But the way they assemble rap and hip hop is going to be the future of the way they assemble soundtracks for movies and TV. And you won't need that because you have an orchestra
they still
in
use
your software.
In movies now.
You don't need
some movies do the hip hop music thing, but a lot of movies still use orchestral scores because they feel like it's.
Well,
but those scores are programmed.
I have some friends who play in pit orchestras. I have some friends who play in pit orchestras on Broadway, and some things have indeed already been replaced by programs. Some things can't be replaced by programs.
Sure.
So far.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's always going to be a form of pit orchestra, I think. And there's always, as far as it being all of Broadway being hip hop, There may be some other hip hop plays, but Broadway, the thing that makes it last all these years is that even when somebody's trying to keep it traditional, what's the most traditional way we can do this? Like any living creative organism, something different pops out. So even if everything went hip hop, something different would pop out. The pop out thing might be the Sound of Music, for God's sakes, would be different by then. Who knows? But
yeah, I mean, the technology, once people get a hold of it, it leads to tremendous innovation.
My experience with Broadway is as an institution that tries to remain traditional and yet really loves the things that break the tradition.
Here's an analogy. It's the way that electricity made it so that bands could get smaller, because you could make the same amount of volume for dancers without as many people.
But in some ways, electricity sort of ruined some things about music. For instance,
but it also led to something. I mean, there's always unintended consequences.
One of my favorite quotes from Louis Armstrong was, he was asked, "Louis, what do you think about this rock and roll craze that's sweeping the country?" And he said, "Well, to me, it's the same old gut bucket blues we was playing back in New Orleans. Now, everybody plays too loud and nobody listens for the beautiful parts." And that is one of the things with modern music, especially generation. It was all about bigger and louder is better. And louder is fun, but the beautiful parts are in the soft parts.
Well, that generation of dancers had just won the war, and they were glad to be alive, so they were less interested in the beautiful parts of the band and more interested in the beautiful parts who they were dancing with.
The thing about Mikey and I have on about millennials a lot. The thing about the new kids is it isn't bigger is better. You know, bigger you can't just throw in your car and go.
Wait, what do you mean by kids?
The kid, his youngest is age. The kid.
How old is Allie? 25?
No, she's Gen Z. She's Gen
not a
Z.
millennial.
She's on the cusp.
Young millennials are in their 30s.
I have labels just drive me crazy. Can I finish my point? It's now technologically, it's allowed for tiny speakers to sound awesome. You don't need a wall of stacked speakers behind you. You don't need Marshall amps anymore, really, to sound like you have a Marshall amp. And so that's a shift. Smaller's better too now.
I want to answer on one of our guys. Mark Membrilla's on here, and his comment is impressive and amazing, Mark. But do you want to listen to it? He says Mariah Carey is an 87 octave range, and I can appreciate it, but I don't necessarily want to buy a CD of it. And he goes on to say, great quote from his friend Woody on seeing his first thrash metal band was, "I can't say it's my thing, but I also can't say it's not done well." But so for you, Mark, it's not your thing. But the first Mariah Carey record that came out, I remember really enjoying, and I listened to it enough to know the record. And I'm not going to buy any more of her records, but
it's the same. It's a conversation that you had with me on Monday about movies. Some people like horror movies. Some people like soap operas. Some people like action movies. Some people like space movies. Some people like westerns.
Exactly.
They're all cool.
Obviously, there's a market for it. I don't think he's saying there isn't a market for it, but the people who listen to the kind of music that you play and that we play may not be up for these technical artists who, one of the drags about Mariah Carey is how much.
Hey, I love John Coltrane. I love Thelonious Monk. I love it when it's done well, but so much of it is not.
Best guitar players in jazz. Those two of the best guitar players in jazz.
What's funny is that Eddie just actually, without even realizing it, he was advocating for a guy like Fletcher because that was Fletcher's whole fucking point. He loved Charlie Parker. He loved Thelonious Monk. He was trying to create the next one. You're just saying that those are the only guys that are worthy, and that's the same thing that he was saying.
Thelonious Monk wasn't created through that kind of teaching. Miles wasn't created through that kind of teaching.
How do
Charlie Parker was not created through that kind of teaching. The drive to
You're
change
making this
the way
up
he
from your
played
own experience. You have no idea how Charlie Parker was raised. And obviously they went and did some research and had some stories in the movie that talked about it.
Oh, yeah? Talk to my good friend,
you and him are buddies?
Burns.
When's the last time y'all had lunch together?
Check and mate. Yubber.
Check and
That's
mate.
the end of today's
That's
show.
the
That's
end
right.
of today's show. We had fun.
Hey, you know who should have been in on this musical argument? Tim Summer.
Tim Summer's going to have to be a guest at some point.
At some point, but I want to be there too because he can't go unchallenged.
I don't know if I can have you and Tim on the same show. It would be the Tim and Eddie show.
Well, the thing is, we would have to just get Mikey off screen. Sorry, Mike. Out of the four of us, you're the least photogenic. It's just the way it is. I love you, Mikey.
All right, well, Mikey, as always, fun. Eddie, as always, fun. Please join us Friday, where our guest will be Superhero Review with Chicago Lou, featuring.
And we're going to talk about Godzilla versus Kong, so you have to finish watching it.
Well, I'm trying my best.
I'm going to get you my HBO Max code.
Okay, real quick. Godzilla, Kong, Mothra. Fuck, marry, kill.
Good night, Gracie. We'll see you guys next time.
Good night, Gracie. Yep. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching and listening.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away the ashes from an empty counter seat, and I wished I wasn't homesick, I wish I was asleep. Well, I hold her like a blanket up against my chin, and I need her like I need another pack of chewing gum. Well, we used to be like that, but now we're like this all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup